Oh, oh, this is gonna get messy. Hello friends, I've got an experiment today for you. I have never worked with flocking before. That's apparently what this stuff is. This is a polyester suede in navy blue. As far as I know, it's just little synthetic shavings that are in this bag here. And there are some on the outside of the bag. Not as bad as glitter though, it's all about perspective. On YouTube, I was watching the wood whisperer apply flocking to a smaller wooden box, and it looked like a fun process. So my main goal is to eventually use flocking in a prop project, namely my Hearthstone box that I just finished that I love so much. I think it would look cool with a navy blue fuzzy interior, so on the sides and the bottom. And I'm gonna try and replicate what the Wood Whisperer did with his box because it looked really good. I went with the same brand the Wood Whisperer used too, just so I can minimize any kind of complications. But I believe all you need is an adhesive, which is this guy right here. I mean, I suppose you could use just about anything, but this is pigmented to the right color. It's a navy, and it says it takes a couple days to fully dry, so I imagine it's some kind of really durable finish. I don't know what's in here though. We'll find out when we crack it open. Then after the adhesive is on there, you just have to dump some flock on it. Now it's going to be uneven unless you have a special kind of applicator, some way to dust it evenly over the whole surface. And that's what this guy is for. These look just like packing tubes, but they nest together really well. You can hear that awesome noise. And this end has some holes in it. This one does not. I think you put the flocking in here like half full. And then you kind of like puff air through it. I guess you just do that over and over again. It's called spraying, even though this is all manual. I'm sure they have all sorts of fancy ways to do this. This is just the kind of low-tech way to get a kind of even application. And after you spray this stuff on, you just leave it for a couple days and then dump off the extra. The extra can totally be reused. This kind of finish is used for all sorts of stuff. Like if you see those fake Christmas decorations that have those, you know, pine needles with snow on them, a lot of the times the fuzzy looking white snow is flocking. I guess another industry use is you can put this on shoes to give it a fuzzy finish. So some of the fancy shoes you see out there could have totally been flocked. I guess there's a way you can use the electricity of how staticky this stuff is to evenly apply it in an industrial setting, but I won't be trying any of that. In the miniatures and model train world, this kind of stuff is used for foliage in like green colors or browns, depending on what kind of look you're going for. So this stuff is used all over the place. For my first test, I think I'm going to just try some paper. I have some pieces of paper here that are a little thicker. They have a fun kind of pattern on them. I think we got these for business cards like years ago and didn't use the rest of the container. I created a pattern using 2 different widths of masking tape just to see how hard it is to peel off the masking when you have the adhesive and flocking down, and to see how clean of a line you get. We have this awesome Destiny symbol that someone gave us, I can't remember who, but it's really cool. It looks like it's cold cast. And I was thinking that this could possibly be a coaster, and maybe I should try flocking on the back of this. This would be a fun way to see if the fuzzy stuff will adhere to the back of resin, and then you could have bottom of your coaster. Apparently you can also brush the adhesive onto a stamp and stamp an area. I was thinking that might be a good way to transfer patterns to fabric if you want to have, you know, the kind of fuzzy flock on certain parts of your fabric or different parts of your costume. The only stamp we have in-house is one that Bill made, and it's a butt. So I'll try brushing on some of the adhesive on here and stamping it down, like maybe right there, then put the flocking on it and see how that looks. All right, I think I'm ready to get started. For most of these tests, I'm skipping step 1. It says to seal the surface before you coat it with adhesive. It looks like the main concern is you don't want an uneven application of the adhesive. And I'm guessing they're talking about wood in here. So if you haven't sealed your wood, you brush on that adhesive, it's going to get absorbed a lot, especially with things like MDF. And then when you go to put on your flocking, there won't be any adhesive left on the surface to grab onto the fuzzies, so when it dries, the fuzzies will just fall right off. But I don't know, I think with paper, I'm just gonna leave it see how it goes. And the same with the resin, it can't really get absorbed. So I'm gonna skip the sealing. My Hearthstone box has already been sealed, so that one will be fine. Step 2 is to fill your mini flocker. I think it just goes in here. I've got a garbage bag in a cardboard box. Hopefully that helps a little bit, but I have a feeling this is gonna be messy no matter what you do. I'm also thinking this is step 2 because you don't wanna be messing with this stuff when you got your adhesive down. Decide if the adhesive starts to dry and then you apply your flocking. It won't apply evenly because parts of the adhesive isn't doing its job. Oh, that feels weird. It feels incredibly soft, very synthetic soft, but it has little clumps in there. So it's soft but also clumpy. That's really cool. Step 2 done, set that aside. Step 3 is to apply the adhesive. This container does say you have to mix it beforehand. It smells like some kind of polyurethane, like something you use in woodworking for a finish for your wood. The smell isn't too strong though, but this definitely isn't like a PVA. It's something much stronger. It doesn't seem like it needed to be mixed. I don't have anything on the bottom. It seems like it's got a nice viscosity to it. For applying the adhesive, it does recommend taking your brush and kind of like flattening it and pulling along in one direction so you're not like stippling it. This is a Mod Podge brush from Plaid, and I think this might work pretty well. It's got really soft bristles and they're synthetic, and I think I can just brush it on. All right, here we go. This brush barely fits in the container. It's a little wide. Oh, that's a lot. In the Wood Whisperer video, he said to be pretty generous with everything, with the adhesive, with the flocking, because anywhere you miss, the fuzzies will not stick, and if you don't put enough fuzzies on there, then you'll still see the adhesive. Wow, this stuff is pretty stinky. I was working on a project for more than a couple seconds, I would definitely put on a respirator. Now for the stamp, so I'm just gonna brush it on there. I'm just gonna lightly press that down. Well, that kind of worked. It's hard. I think I put it on a little thick, and it looks like it didn't really go on very even. But I'm just going to roll with it. Next up is to apply the fuzzy bits. In the directions, they were talking about holding the applicator at an angle, anywhere between here and here, but to not change the angle as you're applying it of this thing. So whatever angle I choose, I need to keep it like that, and I need to tilt the material and not this, because I guess if you rotate this around, it's not going to put them out evenly, but let's find out. So you open it, and when you press it in, you twist it, kind of like a peppermill, I guess, and you just keep doing that over and over. Whoa. Holy cow, a lot of that comes out. Oh, this is really fun. I think it said 8 to 10 inches is kind of where you want to hold it. But holy cow, that's applying evenly. I guess I'll just put a little extra on there since the directions said that too much is not a bad thing. That looks awesome. This stuff does not clean up well with soap and water. It just feels so oily. Mineral spirits. Should have used mineral spirits. That worked much better. I think I need to completely avoid getting the adhesive on my hands at all, which I did when I was using it, but I went to clean off this brush. I just started using my hands to wash it off, and it got all over my hands. So now my hands are clean again. I can get this brush back to normal. This comes right off of the mineral spirits though. I guess you can use this stuff to thin this mixture too if it's too thick for you. So that makes sense. It's been about 10 minutes. I'm gonna try removing the masking while this stuff is still very wet. Man, this stuff kicks up in the air pretty easily. I feel like if I was working with this a lot, I should be using a dust mask. That looks pretty cool. I desperately want to touch it, but I'm gonna be good and go set this aside because it is not even close to being dry yet. Next up is the Destiny symbol, and this time I'm gonna use a little acid brush to apply it. If I can't get this guy clean, I could just chuck it and it's not as much of a loss. Oh, it's so much fun. All right, that is sufficiently flocked. Back in the container you go. It is time for the real thing. I've got the top of the box masked off. The directions did say that was optional, but you have to be really careful with your brush strokes. It's okay if you get flocking over the edge because it won't stick without the adhesive, but this adhesive I want to keep away from the edges, and I don't trust myself, so I use masking tape. I've got Bill here to help me. We're gonna do some flocking. We're gonna do the whole bottom of the box, and then I'm gonna tilt the box so Bill can do the sides. We don't want to tilt this differently, so we want to keep this thing at the same angle, so we'll be moving the box around. So you go like that. Ooh.
Well, that's pretty.
Yeah, it's super fun to do.
This is gonna be the new glitter.
Definitely gets everywhere like glitter does. All right, you wanna try it?
Sure.
There you go. Yeah.
It doesn't take much.
No, and put on a lot. Like layer it.
I feel like I put a lot on.
Yeah, that is okay.
I'm moving this just a tiny amount, just so much is coming out.
We're basically flocking experts now. It's amazing how like the edges look all curved now because there's just so much extra in there.
Carefully lowering this. I didn't want an eruption of flocking material.
Nobody sneeze.
I wonder what year we'll throw all this away.
It has been 2 days and I haven't touched this stuff. I've been very good. Apparently thicker applications can take like a week to fully cure, but I guess after 48 hours it's okay to start messing with it. So I'm gonna try brushing off some of this extra flocking and hopefully some of it stuck. Wow, that really feels legit. It is not coming off. It seems like when I tapped this after I applied the flocking, stuff came off, but now nothing, absolutely nothing is coming off. That is pretty wild. It is on there. I think these uneven spots here are some of the adhesive that snuck under the masking tape. Like if you're applying paint to a stencil and you brush too vigorously, you can kind of like jam the paint under the stencil. So I think that's what that is. It's why my lines aren't too clean. But man, this stuff really feels like it's on there. I wonder if I can scrape it off with a nail. Yeah, I totally can. But it takes a lot of force and a really like pointy surface to do that. The stamp turned out pretty good. It's a little uneven on the edges. I didn't really get a clean stamp impression, but I could see, you know, with some practice, you'd do better with that. Also for the adhesive, it wasn't really evenly applied. You can see the lighter spots here and here. It kind of looks like a shiny spot on the butt. There wasn't a lot of adhesive there, so the flocking didn't really stick to it. So that's a good example of how you really want to get a nice thick even layer of adhesive to not skimp on it because you'll get little missing spots. And this guy, I didn't tap off any of the flocking beforehand, so probably a lot of this is going to come off. Not as much as I thought. Wow, that looks really good. It feels just like the stuff I played around with before in the past. I just never really thought about how it was applied. Man, that looks good. I didn't mask the edge of this, so you can see some spots where the navy blue adhesive kind of went over the edge, but I can just scrape it off with a fingernail. It seems to be coming off. A lot of force, though. This does feel like a pretty sturdy finish, though. You just don't want to scrape it with really sharp things, and I imagine if you have something that rubs together a lot, that this might eventually rub off. So like the toes or heels of shoes that have flocking on it, I imagine those areas will start to rub off and you'll just start to see the material underneath. But that looks really good. It is time for the big one. This one is full of extra flocking I'm gonna have to dump out. if you're like, hey, why didn't you take off the hinges when you were doing this flocking thing? I would tell you, well, one of the hinges I had to kind of change the positioning of, and I ended up epoxying the screw in, so at least one of these sides doesn't come off. So since the lid fits so well, I don't want to mess it up and take it off again. All right. Come back to me, material. You will be reused. Yeah. And hopefully this masking tape comes off. All right. Got a little bit of the adhesive on the hinge there. Oh, yeah, I can just scrape it off. Excellent. Man, this looks really cool. I'm afraid to mess with it too much since the directions did say that it could take a full week for everything to fully cure. So I think I'm gonna call this a success and then check on it in like a week or so just to make sure everything's good. But man, that feels cool. It looks so neat. It just looks so professional. I love it. Well, I'm all done with my flocking experiments for now, but I'm looking forward to using this sometime in the future for some kind of project. I'll have to get some more colors, maybe some greens, try some mossy stuff. I don't know. It seems like the possibilities are pretty broad with this material. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. And thank you so much for your continued support. It's because of you that I can take the time to try out fun stuff like this and learn how to use a new material. Take care, and I'll see you next time.